Y'all, Wizard101 just dropped its first major teaser of the year. They just posted on Twitter. This is a gigantic deal. We finally have the first teaser regarding the Wallaroo dungeon that's supposed to drop early this year. And y'all, this teaser, it looks beautiful. I think it's gotten everybody like super excited. The comments on Twitter are absolutely crazy. And what's really awesome is one of the replies was, when is this releasing? Because that's a question on everyone's mind. And Wizard101 themselves responded saying soon. And also during a stream after the most recent patch in Wizard101, one of the devs that work on this game confirmed that the next patch is the Nightmare Dungeon. That means that we could probably expect this dungeon this week, which is probably Tuesday or Wednesday, or most conservatively, probably in a week. And the reason I say this is because when they were talking about, you know, the fact that Wallaroo is going to release without a dungeon last year, they said it's going to release early this year. And I feel like once we're in February, I'm not really sure about the whole early next year comment at all. So because such a big change is coming to the game so soon, I want to talk about all the things we can expect from this update. The first thing that I think is really worth talking about is there seems to be no indication that there will be a test run for this update. And everything we've been told about this dungeon seems to point to the fact that it'll have like a really cool standard mode and a really challenging challenge mode. In fact, the same dev that I referenced earlier during this video also said that he's pretty confident that we won't just go into this dungeon with 7 cards and call it a day. In other words, a deck like this might not actually be enough to cut it, meaning it might actually be challenging compared to, like, you know, what we're used to. Maybe like Darkmoor was when we were like level 100s. I really hope I'm not in the minority on this just by being mad excited, but like, I really hope it's like, you know, somewhat of a challenge and like, you know, it feels like Darkmoor did or Tartarus did. I really enjoyed that, but as excited as I am for that element, I do think that their comments about, you know, the upcoming difficulty sets a scope for the dungeon. And for that scope to be paired with a lack of player testing that we're used to in test realm, that could cause all kinds of issues. I'm obviously hoping that none of that happens. Like, you know, there's no like weird glitches. There's nothing that prevents us from getting the gear from the gauntlet dungeon, whatever. But that is something that we're gonna have to note. Like, they're actually out here doing big dungeons without even test realm now. Regardless of your opinion on test realm being there or not, that's a big step for KingsIsle. I'm excited to see how this goes. Maybe this will be like, you know, the return of more than just like 3 major updates every year. And the reason I say this is if you constrain yourself to test realm as to whether you can put out like even a mid-sized update or not, then you start like having a lot of these expenses tied to these updates. If y'all don't know, test realm is a whole other set of servers. They probably have to dedicate like, you know, people to like copying your server data over to test realm. It's probably just super expensive. If they can actually put out even a dungeon without test realm, I think that's a big step for Wiz. All we can hope though is that it's not glitched. That's all I can hope for. The thing that makes me nervous is that they've also said before that the challenge mode is going to be somewhat like a mini raid. And to me, what that means is there's probably going to be mechanics involved that we've never tested before. So it might just be like a crazy ambitious thing that they're doing. I wish them the best on this dungeon off of that alone. Now, there's a lot more to expect from this update, and I think the way it's going to affect gear is also going to affect how level 170 is played in general. For one, wands, which are a huge part of the max meta right now, are gonna all be audited into level 170 from raids, and we're gonna have new level 170 wands dropping from the Nightmare Dungeon. I think very officially after this update, because of the way they've added universal damage to like the Athames and rings at level 170, and the fact that those are also gonna apply to wands, we're gonna see dual schooling reach a new level of efficient. But I think that also comes with, like, you know, big concerns on my end. Right now, PvP has not been taken over, thankfully, but is very much affected by cosplaying strategies. And the idea is you just choose a school that's higher damage per pip than you. Normally, it's Storm or Fire. You put on the headmaster staff, right, for that school. And then you fill up on the pins that, you know, give you damage. You have Athames and rings that give you damage. You put on a damage pet. What you see right now are my stats when I actually have my normal mid stuff already, like, you know, addressed. I can still get 150 damage to Storm and 34 pierce to Storm. Now imagine if this wand gave universal damage and universal pierce like it will at level 170. Then instead of that fire stuff, I'll be getting even more Storm stuff. A secondary school identity alone is going to be so powerful that imagine what it's like when you abandon your main school and go into another school completely. It will be even more OP because now you're starting to add stuff like shads into the mix. That's just going to be crazy. While I'm excited for the new gear adding, like, you know, secondary school stuff, I think cosplaying strategies are going to be broken. Again, if you guys are not familiar with how broken it is, it's basically like, imagine a death having the resist of a death and the health of a death, but the damage per pip and the damage of a storm. That's what's gonna happen, and considering that the gear is expected to give shat chance on the main pieces of gear and universal damage on the wands, it's just gonna get more broken. What I'm very optimistically hoping for is that with this dungeon, they also address how easy it is to just abandon your own school and turn into a better version of a higher damage per pip school. I think they could easily do that by capping your damage for schools that are outside of your own. They already do that for your own school. Right now, for example, my max myth damage is 192. When I put on all my max damage gear, I hit 190 damage, right? They could do that for Storm on a myth, but for way lower, so that you're not just abandoning myth and becoming a Storm. I hope they do that without, you know, fully affecting your ability to dual school. I understand that that's probably a nightmarish, you know, balance to strike. But if they do it right, this update could really get rid of the whole cosplaying thing so that there's still a school identity, and really make it so that, let's say that you choose to, like, I don't know, duel into life or duel into death. There could be some really present advantages there that weren't there before this update. Could be a mess, could be amazing. That's really up to them in terms of what they do with stat maxes with the Nightmare coming out. And finally, I think if you didn't know about this, you'll be pleasantly surprised. The Nightmare is supposed to establish the next arc. So whenever this dungeon drops, we'll finally get a preview as to what they're designing the next arc around. I'm gonna be honest, I know everyone can be a critic, whatever. I think this last arc, I think it was really, really fun to play through. However, I do think that the surrealism and, like, you know, the ambiguous themes and all that, the something, the nothing. If you guys were actually reading the dialogue, I think after a while it got really, really played out, and I kind of started to miss the more concrete villains we've had. You know, the death professor that can't get over the death of his wife. You guys get the deal, right? I feel like the whole, like, you know, universal enemies or universal forces, I've gotten a little tired of that. I would love to just, like, get into another, you know, crazy 5-world arc against a wizard that has a problem with me. I feel like it's storylines like that where Wiz really shines, you know? Like, maybe they could, like, go even further and, like, not make it a wizard, but make it, like, someone that's a person that's, you know, constrained by the laws of the spiral a bit more. But I want that old-fashioned grudge match. I want, like, all that, you know, I miss that. I might be the only one who feels this way, but who knows? If the Nightmare Dungeon is supposed to give us a sneak preview on what's next, we might, for the first time in multiple arcs, find out about a villain that's way more concrete than a force of the universe or something more abstract like that. The thought of that actually really excites me. I look forward to reading what y'all have to say about that in the comments. Hopefully this video caught you up if you haven't been playing Wiz for a little bit, you know, especially if you don't know what the Nightmare Dungeon's all about. It seems to be dropping soon. TLDR of the video, big update coming soon. It's going to be changing gear. It's going to be changing the plot of Wiz. It's going to be a really fun dungeon. Let me know y'all's thoughts on everything I talked about in this video. As always, drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a sub review, and if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome. See y'all soon, and yeah.